Okay, now streaming.
Okay, the ideal page is going to be the ideal page.
Sweet Jack. Again.
I wear it all the time now.
You just like, I was like,
I didn't know. It was white at first.
I don't know, y'all. Why y'all are looking at Sarah like she's crazy? Y'all know what's happening.
I just like how I retouch
I'm gonna read it.
What bed? I thought you wanted to.
Yeah, I just
Oh, yeah, I do. You can't remember where it was. I'm sorry. I was like, it's on your comment back, and I said, what do you say?
I call this meeting to order at 5:01 p.m. If there are no objections, we will approve the minutes of the repeat meeting. Are there any students here for open forum? No? Okay, we will go into presenters. We have Senator Edgar Lucero, Chair of Academic Affairs, going to be presenting on findings of the Academic Advising Resolution Survey. So, if there are no objections, I will suspend the rules for 10 minutes to allow him to present. Okay.
So, as all of you are aware, kind of the big project for Academic Affairs this year was looking at advising and having multiple conversations with Provost Hargis about what can we do to improve advising within the Advising Center, but also within our respective departments, just to make it better for students, because there are always a lot of complaints about advising. So we conducted a survey. So just kind of looking at demographics, there were 260 survey responses, which was pretty good for having this out for about 3 weeks. The bulk came from the senior class, so there were 74 seniors, 65 juniors, 61 sophomores, 42 freshmen, and then 18 graduate students. And for those graduate students, in case you had questions about that, it is students that completed their undergrad at UCA and then are in graduate programs at this institution as well. So kind of the premise behind this survey was figuring out what do you think is the biggest problem with advising at UCA. Majority of the respondents said that understanding what is needed to meet requirements for graduation, so that's kind of that 31.3%. That's where a majority of the respondents felt that, or students felt that we don't understand what we need to meet our requirements for graduation. The Advising Center doesn't help us with that. And then kind of the other two biggest portions were transitioning from the Academic Advising Center into your department. So a lot of students, myself included, feel that the Advising Center doesn't prepare us to seamlessly transition into a department, especially for those students that may be double or triple majors that are going to have advisors in multiple departments or across multiple academic colleges. And then understanding how the advising process works. So we know that as a freshman and a sophomore, you go into the advising center, meet with a general academic advisor, and then as juniors and seniors, we meet with departmental advisors. But really understanding how that process works, that transition, and then knowing that the advising center is there to help you assess your lower and upper division core, where your departments are there to help you assess requirements within your specific degree programs or within the specialization tracks for a degree area. So for the number of students that felt confident in understanding their academic progress, I'm honestly not surprised by these findings that a majority of students felt very confident in understanding their academic progress. A multitude of the responses were that students felt that they were pretty much advising themselves, and when we're doing the work ourselves, then clearly we're going to understand where our academic progress lies. So the responses for this particular question didn't surprise me, that a lot of students feel that for the most part they understand what their academic progress is. I feel that my advisor is accessible and easy to reach out to. So this one could be a little confusing. Majority of students felt that yes, their advisor is easy and accessible to reach out to. The majority of that number is upperclassmen students, referring to departmental advisors. The ones on the lower end are referring to academic advisors in the advising center, that they feel they're either too rushed or there are so many students trying to get advising appointments at the same time that the academic advisors in the advising center kind of brush over them, that they don't listen or they're not quick to respond when they send an email and they're like, hey, I need to set up an appointment because I make my schedule in 2 weeks or in a week, and they're not quick to respond. So that was kind of the biggest trend with this particular question. For feeling that your advisor is invested in your success, again, this is referring primarily to departmental advisors. A lot of upperclassmen students have that one-on-one interaction with departmental advisors because oftentimes they are faculty members in that department. So getting to have them in class as a professor, but then also getting to meet with them one-on-one, a lot of students feel that those advisors are personally invested in our success and that they want to see us succeed in whatever field we're going into. The inverse to that is the academic advising center is so broad, and those advisors cover a wide array of degrees and are just focused on trying to get your lower division and upper division core requirements met, that they maybe don't take the time to really invest in you as a person and as a student. And we think that that kind of hinders your ability to be successful throughout the entire advising process. So does anyone have any questions?
Yes, sir.
Were there any surprise findings?
Surprise findings, not really. I think the biggest surprise I would have had was figuring out the invested in success. I figured that departmental advisors, yes, would have been invested in your success as a student, but I also was surprised that many felt the advising center wasn't and those advisors weren't. My experiences with the 3 advisors I had in the advising center, 2 of those 3 were very positive. Those advisors really cared about what I was doing, what I wanted to do in the future, but for many students that apparently was not the case. So that was probably my biggest surprise. So the Academic Affairs Committee, or I guess myself and potentially Hershela, will be scheduling a meeting with Provost Hargis, and he's going to have us present it to him, present the information and the findings to him, and then potentially to the Council of Deans as well. And the deans will be able to take that information back to their department chairs and say these were the biggest shocks that we found, because we did have students select what major they were in. So I've broken the survey responses down into academic college and then by department as well. So a big bulk of our responses came from the departments of biology and psychology. And they were very mixed reviews on both ends. It was a good mix of underclassmen and upperclassmen. So for those 2 departments in particular, I think this information is going to be extremely beneficial in helping their advising process, not only in the advising center, but within those 2 particular departments as well.
And then also passing along the information to our new provost, Dr. Poulter, when she gets here in June, for her to have that information as well. Senator Sierra?
Well, basically, because we already know that it's good with the academic advising, in the upper class advising. How can we, work for freshmen and lower class?
I'm sorry,
because we already know that it's good, and the process that we have right now, good, has good,
From an upper class
yeah,
perspective.
but like, those freshmen that are coming in have to go to advice, what can we do for them, knowing that it's a problem?
Yes, so I think that was kind of the purpose of having, trying to really encourage freshman and sophomore students to take this survey, because that process was still very fresh in their mind as what it was like being a freshman as a sophomore, reflecting back on your freshman year, and then being a freshman now. Provost Hargis has actually worked with the Advising Center to implement a lot of changes this semester, and they'll be fully in effect starting in the fall. One of those is academic progress audits. So at the 30 credit hour mark, really having the academic advisors in the Advising Center look and see that, okay, so you're reaching that 30 credit hour mark, have you kind of followed the academic map? And then also at the 60 credit hour mark before you transition into a departmental advisor. So he's taken a lot of the information and conversations that President Lockwood and I have had with him and taken that back to the director of the Advising Center and talked with academic advisors in the Advising Center to make sure that freshmen understand what the advising process is and they're not just kind of thrown into it blind and then get lost over the course of 4 years of this institution.
Yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay, all right, thank you. I will go into one report. I'm going to fight with the wall up here. Actually, sorry. Where's Sarah? Oh, there's her. Okay, so it starts with me campaign. So, for those of you that don't know, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and this is what SGA is doing. I didn't have it last week, well, I had it when it was starting, but this is what we did. Sorry, I had it behind it. So, this is a bystander intervention pledge that was kind of created. You'll see. Sorry, Targa. But I'm going to read it to y'all. Oh, okay. Great. Wow. Okay. As a member of the UCA community, I pledge to protect our community and recognize that it starts with me. I will no longer be silent when a potentially dangerous situation occurs. I will find a way to intervene in any situation that potentially could cause harm to another person. I will change anything I may be doing that contributes to the events that may result in violence and or harm to others as well as myself. I support and encourage others in my life to take responsibility for ending all forms of violence. It starts with me. And then, does anyone have the band on by any chance? Karan always has it on. Can I have that? Sorry. Okay. So, sorry. We've been having students, so this is the response from just sitting in the student center last week on Wednesday. So shout out to Senators Askew, Slazier, and Bergwood for helping me do that. But we're also, if students want one, giving away these bands, and it says it starts with me, and it says SGA on the back. So just kind of like a daily reminder. And so this is just something that SGA is doing, and we'll be in the Student Center Wednesday. So, and I will have this laid out on the table so all of y'all can sign it on your way out. But just something saying that you will be a bystander and really just what it says. But yeah, okay, so I just wanted to show y'all that. Thanks for letting me borrow that. Okay, that's it. And thank you to Jared Wood. If y'all don't know, he does all the printing for SAP and all the IT stuff for the Student Center. He was gracious enough to let us print this. He did it for us and designed it for us. So, yeah. Okay, that's it for that. Campaign materials. So now that elections are over with, please remove your campaign materials. Just a reminder. I don't know that I've seen any, but just in case you have some, it's your responsibility to remove any flyers, banners, anything from any halls, things like that. So make sure that you do that. Also, all freshmen, so the entire freshman class plus Senator Gomez, and I don't know if any other freshman is serving in a different role, but stay after. I got a nice question for you. Okay, that's it. Any questions? No? Okay, President.
Okay, awesome. So first, I want to say hello to our ideal pages at our very last meeting. Hello, Chloe and Sarah. Hi. Thanks for being here. Y'all look good. Okay. Next, the end of your dinner is a week from today. How weird. So we're gonna meet in here first, just Senate at 5. Tell your guests to meet us in McCaslin, which is where we're eating dinner in the ballroom at 5:30. We will eat there. We will do closing remarks, goodbye, hello, and here. Hello, goodbye, whatever you want to say. Mostly, I mean, goodbye to me. That's what matters. So, I think that was it. Okay, senior class officers, we decided that they're gonna fill those positions in the fall. So if you're interested, if you're gonna be a senior next year and you think, hey, maybe I want to do that, if you have friends who might be interested, they're gonna fill those then. So we had like maybe 1 applicant. I contacted that person and let them know what happened. So they now know when to try again. Sounds great. And then another plug, we're still looking for office workers. The applications are still open. I think they close on the 18th, which gives freshmen enough time to register for classes they can submit their schedule, because that is a requirement for it. If you know anybody or if you yourself are looking for it, it is a really fun job. I think all of our office workers enjoy being office workers. If you want to know more about it, feel free to ask them or our office manager / assistant vice president of finance, David Mitchell. Questions? They are all fabulous.
They are still, I know, they are still
Okay.
put that.
That's right.
Yeah, that's me. Are there any questions for Vice President Riggins? Okay, so that's where that point went, presidential town hall. So Senator Edgar Lucero asked me last week about the PDF that was gonna be compiled with all of the unanswered questions. God, this is really long. Anyways, so that is now posted. It's on the Facebook page. And I shared it on my personal Facebook page. So if you see it and you have Facebook, and I'm pretty sure that most of you do because I'm friends with you, share it. Because if you don't, I'll find you and make you do it. So just make sure you go share it. It's a PDF document. It has like a little table of contents. It's fabulous. I put it together. It's great. Go look at it. There's a lot of interesting questions that some of you all probably get asked by students, and so tell them to go look at that if you know they submitted questions during the first town hall. And yeah, that's it. Any questions on that? No? Okay, Vice President, please.
Hey, and my first point is that the Dean of Student Search SGA interview, that's a little confusing. But anyway, the SGA allotted time for the Dean of Student Search Committee, and the first one was a great success. Thanks to everyone that came. And then we will have the second candidate here on the 18th, which is Wednesday. And it will be once again at 2:30 in the Senate chambers. And then our final candidate, third and final candidate, will be here Friday, April 20th at 2:30 in the Senate chambers. And most if not all of you, I hope all of you received a couple Google invites from me, inviting you to come and be a part of the SGA interviews. If you get the chance, please say yes or no if you'll be coming. It just helps me prepare setting out name tags and making sure that there are enough questions to be asked and all that. So if you have the time later tonight, just press accept, deny, maybe, if you don't know if you can make it or not. And thank you to the few of you that have already done it. Yeah.
Something you want to add to that? Okay, so for those of you that did come to the one this past week, the candidate emailed me, so if you're interested, it's a pretty lengthy email. Did you get it too? Okay, so if you're interested in seeing it, please just text one of us and we'll forward it to you. I can't remember who all was there, but yeah, just let us know, and we'll let you read it.
Yes, and I have a template to share the strengths and weaknesses that you saw within the candidate that I'll be sending out to each of you that were there. So be looking for that this week. And next, Senator Fun Fact. I have to prepare a bit. 1 minute, please. Oh, gosh. This senator dressed as Gene Simmons for his or her homecoming senior spirit week and did a great job at it. A picture will be included within the minutes. Any
This
guesses?
is not it.
This is not the same.
This is not the senator. But this was a visual for those of you who do not, unfortunately, know who Gene Simmons is. Any guesses?
Senator Gilbert?
Senator Barnes?
No.
That was a Anyone else?
I guess there's not a lot of like very good
Senator Sierra? What? Say it.
Senator Eddie Reserve.
Yeah.
Yay! All right. I'm so
Yes, so, okay,
Just
so,
out of the blue.
so I didn't do, like, I did not participate in homecoming stuff in high school. And senior year, Jamie and I, my sister and I decided we were just gonna go all out for everything. So one of our themes was a decade day, and my senior class got assigned the 80s. So Mom, we bought a wig, cut the wig to look just like Gene Simmons, and she did the face makeup and everything, and no one in my school knew it was me. No one knew it was me.
Okay, all in favor for our future president, Edgar Lucero, showing up to his first unit meeting like this? Just kidding. But yeah, so a pretty fun fact about our future president.
Really, guys.
Okay, so
Will the picture be
meet
seen
me
in
at my
minutes?
office. I know that a get out demerit free card doesn't really mean anything else, so I have another prize for you. Okay, you can have a pen. Okay, I'm trying
Yes,
to get
Sarah,
it
your
in
picture?
Will the picture be included in the minutes?
Yes.
His mom.
Yeah.
I call his mom my mom.
Okay, and then finally, once again, for the second week in a row, the Senator of the Week is not here, but I just want to recognize him. So this senator is an outstanding committee worker. They are very knowledgeable and always ask smart questions. And the senator is described as someone who has the ability to adapt perfectly and is always willing to step up to the plate with the success of students in mind. So congratulations, Senator Vick, who's not here. Yeah, so I'll be getting that to him sometime this week. But yeah, other than that, thanks for a great year.
Any questions? Vice President, Vice President, I was gonna say Vice President of Finance, which is the same thing, but Vice President.
All right. So I have turned all of our liquid assets into Bitcoin.
Heck yeah.
So that's all I got. Believe it or not, money's still there. Locked in on the safe.
Facebook stuff.
What?
The Facebook.
Yeah, well, I thought about it for a second. I was sitting there on a Saturday night like, should I? But yeah, so again, we've done a lot. We've done a lot this year, and I hope that for years to come, we continue to do a lot, especially if we can through our financial means. I hope that we've set up through our exec board and through you guys, I think we've set up the future to be able to do that, and to be able to kind of latch on to some projects and put our name on some stuff and make ourselves and the university look great and support our students while doing it. So, fantastic job. That's all I got. No Bitcoin.
Any questions? No? Okay, we will go into standing committee reports, academic affairs. Senator Edgar Lucero.
So you all saw it. The last thing was the advising survey, and we collected all of that data, compiled it, and the last kind of step in that process is meeting with the provost and with any other parties that he deems necessary and passing that information along to make advising better at UCA.
Any questions? No? Okay, diversity, Senator Markley.
Hello, unfortunately, the semester's coming to an end, and we have one event left. So on Thursday at 5 o'clock, I'm doing Jefferson student
Doing health sciences.
science. I was thinking about that. Doing health science center. We're having spirituality at 5 o'clock. So come out, listen, get close, appreciate this religion. And Dr. Anderson is getting back with us for the survey for diversity fair. They close on April 20th. Sent them out to everybody who's passed. So once we get those to us, we'll compile them and all that kind of stuff. And pass them on. So next year, we can have them again. We can make it better. And that's it. Thanks for sticking it out.
How many of y'all know what speaking spirituality is? Okay, so most of everyone, but not everyone. Okay, so this event, sorry, I have a personal attachment to it, so I'm going to talk about Okay. So this event was created 2 years ago through the Diversity Committee, and I can't, no, everyone can hear me, right? I think I'll get up. Okay, so this event was created through the Diversity Committee 2 years ago, and it's just a way to have just a healthy discussion around spirituality, what it entails, as well as expose students to different kinds of spiritualities. And so spirituality and religion are two different things. And if you were like, what? No way. You should come to the event to learn more. So yeah, thanks Sarah Marbley for carrying on the tradition. Yes.
No problem. We're ecstatic. Also, if you're in a philosophy and religion class, ask your professor about extra credit. Just saying.
Extra credit. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, any questions? SFAC, Senator Burton.
We are finished with our hearings this semester. The report's been, of course, approved, and satisfaction survey was sent out, and there's really not a lot left. We're setting up the next SFAC chair with the proper materials to get them going for next year.
What questions do you all have? Okay, we will go into goal committee reports, campus interactions, Senator Miller.
Hello, everybody. We had our last meeting today. Really sad. I'm so sad about it. But yeah, so we have accomplished quite a lot, and so today we kind of just got to talk about our progress and what we get to pass on to our executive board to wrap up for us over the summer in order to get fall convocation kicked off without a hitch. So that was really exciting for us to look at those details. I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to be there for it. But we are meeting this week again with myself, Senator Willie, and then Lindsay Osborne, Charlie, Director of New Student Programs, and Rebecca Asnick, Registrar. Just make sure that all of us are on the same page prior to the semester ending, and then getting them in contact with whoever is going to be taking this over from. Yippee! The tradition booklets are still underway, but exciting things coming soon at that. And then for the Get to Know Your Senator campaign, only 2 people are left to respond. So super excited about that. If you haven't done it, please do it. I sent you an email today, and it was a little stern, so hopefully you take it seriously. There's only 2 people though, so please reply, and then we can feature you on our Instagram page. Also, be engaging, like, comment. There you go. Love SGA. So yeah, super excited. Thanks, guys. It's been an awesome year.
What questions do you all have? Okay, housing and food, Senator McGarity.
So we had our last meeting last Wednesday at 8 a.m. and last week Senator he met with Craig Seeger. He's the Associate Dean or Director of Housing and Resident Life. And they met to propose the idea of getting printers in residence halls. And then we had some concerns, just kind of like who would be responsible for maintaining the issues with the printers. And then he thought we should have like a test pilot program to see like just need one to see if it's like good to spread to all the dorms. And then kind of like discussed in this meeting, the one we had on Wednesday with the whole committee, just kind of like what we liked and disliked. The dislikes for the 8 a.m. meetings, sorry about that, guys. And then they liked the field research that we did, and then just meeting with the gym neighbors fairly frequently. And then we had $15 left on our stipend, and we're going to use that at Marble Slab. It's like a kind of like present. Yeah, we're going to get small ice cream for the whole, and maybe, yeah. And then Senator Johnson, and Senator Hall met with PRISM last Thursday during the next period. I'd like to know if there's a report to Senator Johnson to tell us about that.
So when we met with PRISM, we just gathered like their ideas of what they want gender neutrality to be. And their main thing was like they want UCA to be more welcoming. They want the housing halls to have like signs that say that we accept the LGBT community and make everybody feel comfortable. And with regards to gender neutral, they want they don't exactly want gender. I mean they do, but it's not like a big push to get it. It'll be good if we get it, but it's not like a big push. And they wanted to screen people, like sort of screen people to see if they would be comfortable with living. Comfortable with living with people who are in the LGBT community. And the next thing they wanted was more gender neutral bathrooms, because some people, they're not comfortable with like going into female and male. They want gender neutral bathrooms, and they want the UCA website. They want it to be more welcoming to the LGBT community, because the person who spoke, he was like, it's hard to find that UCA is welcoming, so you think it would be a good idea to add that it's welcoming to attract more students, and that's basically what.
Awesome. Thank you for going and gathering all that information. Are there any questions? Okay. Internal Affairs, Sarah Morrison.
All right. We also had our last meeting today at Tropical Smoothie. It was fun, and we're just voting on one last previous notice from last week. So that's it.
Awesome. I'm assuming there's no questions. Okay, Outreach, Senator Stock.
Alright, so we also had our last meeting today. So a couple of updates on our international student closing day initiative. They met last Thursday, and so we're going to maybe take this, for the remaining of this semester, maybe take some small items, some clothes, or mattress pads and stuff, but then for ongoing progress with this, they would like to get one of those pods, and so they talked to international engagement, and they said that they would match anything that SGA wants to donate, if we would like that to be an initiative with us. I don't know, I've got more details to give, like, the next week's there. And then we've gotten a location to give Larry Lawrence for a new hand-making area space. He didn't seem to have any kind of problem with it. He just said to include Ms. Diamond and on the conversation, if it's like a like Res Con or something like that, which ours isn't, but he said just to send him a picture of the Google map of where we want it, and that he would see if it's feasible. So we're getting that to him, and then for the rest of our meeting today, we went over all of our goals and accomplishments to get that updated on anything or any projects that we'd like to see continue on to next year.
Awesome, thank you. What questions do you all have? Okay. Safety, Senator Askey.
All right, we had our last safety committee meeting last Wednesday. Don't have much to report on because we pretty much wrapped everything up for the year, but what I can tell y'all is that I am scheduled to meet with President Davis and Kelly Erskine tomorrow to discuss how to better establish bear control on campus and expand our services a little bit. So hopefully, come fall semester, we'll be coming back with force. So.
Awesome. Any questions? Okay, Student Resources, Senator Ramirez. Oh, goodness.
Alrighty. Our last committee is actually this Wednesday, so it hasn't ended yet. So this is our report. So I would like to say thank you to PR committee for helping Student Resources and the shuttle services, trying to send out that resource for students to know about it during finals week. And then the second thing that made me really happy is that Leslie Hines finally heard back from the contractor. She sent me the pictures, and the boxes are really cute. So I'm going to send that to Megan to feature in the minutes, but I'm going to send it to Larry and Lawrence in the next 24 hours so that he can try to get it approved, or we can have a discussion over it so that we can get this done before SGA Banquet. With that, that's the entire report.
Awesome, thank you. What questions do you all have? Okay, are there any university committee reports? Sarah Martin.
So, my beloved first year seminar subcommittee met for the last time last week. I love this committee so much. Everybody knows it. It was the final one, so we were just kind of continuing discussion. We haven't really come to like a final point at all yet, so that'll continue next year, and hopefully we'll come to a definitive result, or the subcommittee will come to a definitive result by next spring, hopefully. That's what Chair Dr. Held sees in the future of the FYS subcommittee. But we just really had kind of just a continued back and forth about what FYS is. Is it a boutique course? Is it a shell course that professors within a department create so that any student can take it, or is it a general transitional course like we have present in the University College at this moment? And so we're just discussing that, continued, didn't really come to a final result, like I said, but
we did come to a decision to make a list about data collection. So we're going to be, and that was actually per the request of Amy Baldwin, who is a teacher of and the head of this transitional course that we were discussing that I mentioned several meetings ago, but the class name, the course name, it exits my brain at this moment, but yeah. Anyway, so we're just going to UCA data collection and trying to, we have a wish list of just different things that we need from them to make our arguments for or against FYS more substantive. So that'll be collected this summer and then presented at the next meeting next fall. So, and not that I don't know that there will be any meetings this summer. I believe the next meeting will be next fall. So that's all my university committee reports. Until, who knows? I don't know. Anyway.
I'm glad you said something about that. So if y'all have committees, university committees that said that they will have a meeting over the summer, please send that information to me. You are not expected to serve on that. We'll distribute that amongst the new exec and the new exec committee. So, but I need y'all to make sure that you get the information to me because if I don't know about them and I can't pass them along to the new exec, then we won't have a student rep. And for some of those committees, that's the only student input they get. So please make sure, double check, email the chairs that you serve on the university committees for, and make sure that there aren't any summer meetings. So thank you for reminding me of that, Senator Burns. Are there any other university committee reports? No? Okay. We have no unfinished business, so we will go into new business. Is there any new business? Senator Lockings?
I move that the SGA adopt the previous notice for Bylaw B, Article 2, Section 1, page 18, to amend the Constitution to better reflect the practices of SGA.
Thank you.
No.
It's as a one-way page, 18. Okay. It has been moved and seconded that the SGA adopt the previous notice for Bylaw B, Article 2, Section 1, page 18, to amend the Constitution to better reflect the practices of the SGA. Discussion on the motion, Senator Lockings.
Right, this is just, updating the Constitution to what we practice already. It's moving internal affairs and housing and food to standing committees. Since the committees have been repetitive for the past few years, we decided to make it a standing committee so that we can continue to.
It's very long. Well, it doesn't show it.
She can't see it.
I can't on this one.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Yes, Senator Gilbert.
Point of information, during your time as serving in SGA, since you've been in SGA since you've been in SGA for 4 years, have those ever not been a committee?
No. Okay. Nope. Okay. Any other discussion? All right, that's it. Okay. It has been moved and seconded that the SGA adopt the previous notice for Bylaw B, Article 2, Section 1, page 18, to amend the Constitution to better reflect the practices of the SGA. Roll call vote. Oh, yep. Right. No, okay, never mind.
Okay, Abbott, Askew,
Yes.
Audrez,
Yes.
Folly,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Berkla,
Yes.
Burton,
Yes.
Kale,
Yes.
Clark, DePersia,
Yes.
Edinger Lucero,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Gomez,
Yes.
Gomez,
Yes.
Greider,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Kilgrove.
Yes.
Flockings.
Yes.
Lavera. Mason.
Yes.
Marbley. I vote yes. McGarity.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Morrison.
Yes.
Osceola.
Yes.
Pfaff.
Yes.
Ramirez.
Yes.
Riggins.
Yes.
Sander.
Yes.
Sebastian. Sierra.
Yes.
Slazier.
Yes.
Stock. Tarka.
Yes.
Teeter.
Yes.
Vic. Wakeman.
Yes.
Whitby.
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
With 38 yeses, 0 noes, and 0 abstentions, the motion passes. Is there any other new business? If there are no objections, I will move the chair to Vice President Riggins.
Is there any other new business? Senator Burton.
Yes. I move that the UCA SGA adopt the resolution entitled Mandatory Sexual Misconduct Education for First-Year Students.
Second. You don't have to look at Vice President Riggins to shake your.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded that the UCA SGA adopt the resolution entitled Mandatory Sexual Misconduct Education for First-Year Students. Discussion on the motion, Senator Burton.
Yes, so I'm going to read this. Whereas according to RAIN, the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization, among undergraduate students, 23.1% of females and 5.4% of males experience rape or sexual assault through physical force, violence, or incapacitation. Whereas 11.2% of all students experience rape or sexual assault through physical force, violence, or incapacitation among all undergraduate students. Whereas women ages 18 to 24 who are college students are 3 times more likely than women in general to experience sexual violence. Whereas 94% of women who are raped experience symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, during the 2 weeks following the rape. 33% of women who are raped contemplate suicide, and 13% of women who are raped attempt suicide. Whereas only 20% of female student victims aged 18 through 24 report to law enforcement for a variety of reasons. Thus, about 2 out of 3 go unreported. Whereas students are at risk, are at an increased risk for exposure to sexual assault during the first few months of their first and second semesters in college. Whereas more than 50% of college sexual assaults occur either in August, September, October, or November. Whereas within the first 14 weeks of the 2017-18 academic year, the University of Central Arkansas Police Department has experienced 4 reported allegations of sexual assault, harassment, or misconduct, which remain in various investigative stages. And whereas President Houston Davis has stated, sexual misconduct is and will be treated with the greatest seriousness on our campus. When these acts are committed, we want to make sure that the members of our campus community know we will support survivors and bystanders to such events. When people experience or see inappropriate behavior, coming forward is not easy. However, it is absolutely essential, and I proudly stand with them. Therefore, be it resolved, the Student Government Association of the University of Central Arkansas unconditionally supports the survivors and bystanders of each reported and unreported sexual misconduct incident and condemns the respective perpetrators for perpetuating a negative, hostile sexual environment on our campus. Be it further resolved, the Student Government Association exhorts the university to bring a dedicated victim advocate staff position to UCA's campus for nuanced victim-specific resources. Be it further resolved, the Student Government Association, in congruence with the sentiments of the aforementioned co-sponsors, recommends implementation of mandatory sexual assault, harassment, and misconduct educational seminars for first-year students during SOAR sessions, welcoming activities, and/or in residence halls during the first full week of class. Be it further resolved, the Student Government Association urges the current university-sanctioned online sexual misconduct training be mandatory for first-year students, and if not completed, sanctions be enforced at the discretion of the university. And the aforementioned co-sponsors are on the first page under co-sponsors. So President Lalu and I reached out to all of the listed departments on campus and garnered their support for it. This resolution has been looked over and parsed through by the committee that she sits on. And it's in general in support of the resolve process. So
President Baldwin.
Okay, so part of the reason why I moved the chair to Vice President Riggins was because my name is on this. So like Senator Burton mentioned, this has been something that we've been working on since I think the end of the fall semester. And through the committee, the Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Committee that I serve on as a student rep, this has been a topic of conversation. And so the university has already been working on this. And obviously this is just saying that we're in full support of it. I've had several conversations with Mindy Pipkin, who has had conversations with President Davis and IT about it, and so they're working out a few kinks. And so this will be taking in effect. This is just simply saying that we as SGA support it. I think this is extremely important because of, I mean, just everything that was listed in here that Senator Burton read to you all, and so I'm very, very excited to see this come to fruition for our university. I think it's a great thing. A lot of other universities do it as well, and so now, hopefully, we will too.
Senator Gilbert, sorry.
I'd like to make 2 friendly amendments. First friendly amendment is on the back of the final page. In accordance with the title, the final paragraph, be it further resolved, should be the initial resolution, where it says, be it further resolved, the student government urges the current university sanctioned online. That should be the initial resolved, because that is actually the title of the resolution, and otherwise it is because be it further resolved are actually aftermath resolution, so that should be the very first resolution.
But
do I need to explain that any more?
I might object and also ask a question.
Can you clarify your point, Senator Gilbert?
Okay, so when you typically write a resolution, the first resolved clause is based on what the title of the resolution is. That resolved clause is not based on the title of what our resolution is. Our final, be it further resolved, is. So for clarification purposes, I'd like to change that and make that the initial resolved clause.
Objection.
Objection. Okay. Second friendly amendment. On our initial resolved clause, because we already do that, I wanted to change that to a whereas clause, which now is kind of, could still be done.
May I object to that because it wouldn't be a friendly amendment?
Okay. Do I have to stand back up if I'm going to make
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Senator Gilbert.
I'm moving that we amend the resolution to move the bottom be it further resolved clause to become the new initial resolved clause in accordance with the title of the resolution.
Second.
So, it has been moved and seconded that we amend the resolution to move the bottom, be it further resolved clause to become the new initial resolved clause in accordance with the title of the resolution. Discussion on the amendment, Senator Gilbert.
When you write a resolution, which I previously stated, the initial resolved clause is always supposed to be reflective of the title of the resolution, and that is not the case with this, and it would look very unprofessional if we did not make it that way.
Is there any other discussion on the amendment?
Point of information.
Yeah. Senator DeFranco.
Do we know if that's actually like true?
I'm looking in the senator packet, and I don't see that, but that doesn't mean that it's not. Okay. It's just not in my document. Senator Burton.
I rise in support. I feel like when you are resolving the resolution, you should restate your initial thesis that you're following, and further resolving gives extra information that you would like to input. So I support the motion.
Any other discussion on on the amendment? Okay, so, hold on. Yeah. So what this would do is move the one that says, be it further resolved, the Student Government Association urges the current university sanctioned online sexual misconduct, that very bottom one, up to where it currently says, resolved, the Student Government Association of the University of Central Arkansas unconditionally supports the survivors and bystanders. Is that resolved? So this is just gonna move, be it further resolved, the very bottom one, to become that resolved one, and then move the other three down. So that resolved would become, be it further resolved.
Is it going to switch them, or is it going
It
to
says
switch
to
them?
become the initial resolved clause.
Point of information.
Yes.
We're switching the bottom point with the resolve point to, and you said that we wanted to clarify it, but isn't the top point like summing it up, and this one is like supporting how we're gonna do that? Because they said we're like switching it, and then the be it further resolved is so that we can clarify it, but isn't it already doing that, because this one's like a broad statement?
Yeah, so I guess like in a literary sense, it makes sense that we would switch them, simply because you typically state your thesis and then you provide the evidence for how you're going to achieve that, which is essentially what he's moving for. That. In my mind, the way I'm seeing it as is we legitimately just take this third be it further resolved clause and move it up, and everything else just moves down once. I think that solves the issue, and it also, I mean, I would agree that it makes sense that we have the title be the first resolved clause, and we have the evidence to back it up.
Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Okay. It has been moved, I will read it. Moved and seconded that we amend the resolution to move the bottom, be it further resolved clause to become the new initial resolve clause in accordance with the title of the resolution. Roll call vote.
Abbott. Askew.
Yes.
Audrich. Bali.
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Berkla.
Yes.
Burton.
Yes.
Kale.
Yes.
Clark. DePersia.
Yes.
Ettinger Lucero.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Gomez.
Yes.
Gomez.
Yes.
Greider.
Yes.
Hall.
Yeah.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Kilgore.
Yes.
Walkings.
Yes.
Lavera. Mason.
Yes.
Marbley.
Yes.
McAfee. Me. Sorry. Sorry. I'm tired. I vote yes. McCarty.
Yes.
Miller. Yes. Morrison.
Yes.
Asile. Asile.
Yes.
Pfaff. Ramirez.
Yes.
Walu.
Yes.
Sander.
Yes.
Sebastian.
Yes.
Sierra.
Yes.
Slager.
Yes.
Stock. Tarka.
Yes.
Teeter.
Yes.
Vic. Weitzman.
Yes.
Whitby.
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
With 37 yeses and 0 noes, the motion passes. Okay, back to discussion on the original motion, which is to adopt the resolution. Is there any other discussion?
Motion to adopt the unanimous consent.
Second.
Are there any objections?
It's supposed to be 1, 2, 3.
Okay, I move that we. So terrible. I move that I give all this back to President Walu.
Yes.
Yay.
Okay, is there any new business? I'm back. Senator Miller.
I move that in accordance with the Election Rules Committee, the UCA SGA deny the anonymous appeal of the election results for the Executive Vice President submitted on April 13th, 2018.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, Willie Swin. Okay. Okay. It has been moved and seconded that in accordance with the Election Rules Committee, the UCA SGA deny the anonymous appeal of the election results for the Executive Vice President submitted on 13 April 2019. Discussion on the motion, Senator Miller.
Okay, so on Friday, an anonymous appeal was submitted to the executive board, I suppose. It was just in one of their boxes, and so in the event of an appeal, the Election Rules Committee, one representative from every class and then an academic college representative is selected to serve on the Election Rules Committee. And so Carly Jo Vice President Riggins compiled that committee, and we met this afternoon to discuss the appeal. I will now read to you all the appeals so that you are all aware of like what is happening. So this is it word for word. April 13, 2018. To whom it may concern, in accordance with the UCA Student Government Association's Constitution, Section 6, it is hereby requested to appeal the election results of the Executive Vice President's race. The reason for this appeal is because the results of the election were narrow with an 8.1% margin. It is requested this be voted on by Senate at the next regularly scheduled meeting, and the runoff to be consistent with the language in the Constitution. So in the event of an appeal like this, the Election Rules Committee that Carly Jo appointed meets and we discuss the appeal. And so that is what we did this afternoon at 3:15 p.m. We took a long time to deliberate and to look at this really short letter, so there wasn't like a lot for us to discuss. It was a lot of questioning, a lot of looking at exactly what Section 6 in your Constitution says. I would encourage you all to look at it. It's page 6 if you have any questions. It's literally Section 6 titled Appeals. But we met and discussed, and after a lot of deliberation and debate, we voted to deny the appeal. So our motion essentially is to ratify that decision. So now it comes to the Senate's full body, and we vote again to support or deny the decision of the Election Rules Committee.
Is there any other discussion? Vice President Riggins.
Okay. I just wanted to add that my appointment of the people to this committee was based on their volunteering to be part of the election committee. So when President Walu sent around the sheet to sign up, I went ahead and appointed people based off of the constituencies that Senator Miller mentioned, that is to be consistent with the Constitution. I didn't just like out of all of you randomly pick. It was people who had already volunteered to do a similar role. We just don't usually have to assemble the official committee, but because of the appeal, we did.
And that is all done according to the Constitution. Senator Gilbert.
Point of information, is there a way you could put up that section page 6 on there?
Just look at the Constitution.
Yeah.
Just for everybody.
I can read it. Just yeah.
Give me a read. Okay.
Just go ahead.
So Section 6, page 6 of your Constitution, Section 6, Appeal. Point A reads, appeal should be presented in written form to the Rules Committee no later than 3 days following the election. Point B says, a written response from the Rules Committee shall be submitted to the full SGA by the first full Senate meeting following the appeal. Point C says, the response shall be ratified by a 2/3 vote of the SGA at the first full Senate meeting following the appeal. And the last point says, if a new election is warranted for Executive President, Executive Vice President, Vice President of Finance, or Vice President of Operations, is to be held within 1 week after SGA ratification. If a new election is warranted for any other Senate positions, it shall be left up to the direction of the Election Committee.
Any other discussion on the
Point of
motion?
information.
Yes, Senator Berger.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be like 1/3, right? Like in the, like whenever we were, I guess, signing up to campaign, like it said that like you had to beat the other person by like 1/3 vote, right?
No, it depends on the amount of people running for the position.
Yes. So two clarifications, I guess. One, if 2/3 of this body does not ratify or deny the decision, what happens? Because 2/3 has to either ratify the decision of the election committee or the election rules committee, or 2/3 has to deny ratification. What happens if we don't meet that? Do we continue to vote until that 2/3 consensus is reached by this body?
I can yield to that.
Yeah.
Based on Robert's rule.
And then my other point of clarification, while you'll work on that, is just so to clarify for all of you in chamber, when you're voting yes, you are voting to adopt the denial of the appeal by this committee, their recommendation. If you vote no, then you are rejecting that ratification, in which case you are in favor of supporting a special election for the executive vice president's position, if there was confusion.
Senate is still in session.
Is there any other discussion on
It's a point of information.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
just like now.
Okay, it would just go back for re-election now, according to the Constitution, which would be, within, what is it, 1 week?
Within 1 week?
Within 1 week. Okay,
What information?
hold on, Sarah Gilbert, that one first.
So point of information, it's really a two-part point. One, has this ever happened before, to the best of anyone's knowledge?
No.
And two, what is the, is there any margin of error or anything else that could have possibly accounted for that we would want to, say that they should have a runoff because of how close it was?
Yes, Vice President.
All votes are tabulated via WorkSync, so when someone is going in to vote, they have the option to vote for the person, in this instance, there were 2 candidates. You could pick between the 2 candidates, or you could choose not to vote. And so there is I would say there's a very minimal, if any margin of error, that would be like a misclick. But once you press submit on that form, your vote is automatically counted. And then as an executive board, with the advice of and supervision of Dr. Tarka, we went through and tabulated every single vote to make sure that our numbers are accurate.
And double checked.
Every contested ballot, we double check them, we count them on WorkSync, and we download it on a spreadsheet, it's double checked again. So every result was checked 3 times.
So, in my professional opinion, because I have one, I guess, I would say that on the side of SGA, there's little to no margin of error.
I'm going to yield to something that Senator Persia mentioned earlier, kind of vaguely, in the Constitution on page 5, section 4, letter D. It says, in all races in which there are only 2 candidates for the election, the general election shall be the final election except in the event of a tie. So in this case, obviously one person would have gotten the majority, or they would have just had more votes. Yeah, that's how that works. So, yeah, it's not like a 2/3 thing there. It's just majority of the elections.
I would also just like to say that that was a large contending point for the committee. Whenever we discussed that, looking at that in the Constitution, that was a huge part of our decisions.
Okay, Senator Sierra, did you still have a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to see if we can have more of the reason why they denied,
Why the committee denied it?
I would love to yield to that. So my first point would be just exactly what Vice President Ergen said. And whenever we found that Constitution, it literally outlines our position directly. There were only 2 candidates, and in that instance, I believe the number was 54% was what was given, and that comes out to be about 30 more votes. And so given that, it was an 8.1% margin, but we had other elections that were a lot smaller, a lot closer. So that was a large factor in our decision, as well as looking at, this has never happened before. There's no precedent set for us to reflect on and see like a case that, sorry, I should be this has never happened before. So there's nothing for us to look at in the past to kind of base our decision on one way or the other. So like I said, there was a lot of deliberation. And another point that we arose to the denial of was that since this has never happened and we had such low voter turnout to begin with, having another special election less than a week later is unfair to the candidates as well as the PR committee. It's asking a lot to have the exact same election another time. And so that was another point of consistency within our denial.
Vice President Riggins had something to amend.
I have another one to add to that. Because I sat in the committee, non-voting, but I sat in the committee meeting. Another point that was brought up is that there were no campaign violations filed against either of the candidates running for that position. So the basis of the appeal is purely that the votes were close, and there was nothing else. Like the letter did not establish any other problems with the election besides the numbers just being close together.
Yes, Senator Gilbert.
Point of information, do we know why the election was so, such low voter turnout this time? Were there computer issues or anything?
It's not relevant.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions on the discussion? Vice President Riggins.
I move that we suspend the rules to vote by ballot or by private ballot.
Are there any objections? Okay, so all of you have a piece of paper. You can vote, huh?
If you've used your paper as notes, not knowing, then you need another one afterward.
Yeah, you can vote yes, no. Listen up, y'all. Yes, no, or abstain. So, yeah. So, like, please pay attention. Thank you. Okay, so if you vote yes, that means that you are voting to uphold the decision made by the Election Rules Committee. If you vote no, that means you want to go against what the Election Rules Committee decided, and then in that case, we would go into a special election. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions? Oh, yes. Yeah, and your only options are yes, no, or abstain. That's it. Do you have a question?
I don't have voting.
Oh, you don't have a paper. Okay. Are we good? Is everyone good? Okay. Yeah, write down your answers and then just leave them up, and then one exec member will collect them here, another will collect it there, and then we will take one advisor or all three and go and count and then come back. Okay. I think just one. Targa?
Are we all going now?
Yeah.
For transparency purposes, is there a reason why you're trying to get out there?
Are we in E?
Yeah, as soon as we get all votes in. Okay, does anybody have any votes out? Any votes out? No? Okay, we will recess for a minute. Not literally a minute, but.
And a reminder that we're still live streaming, so behave yourselves during this time as well.
I mean,
I do the fact that you all read everyone's didn't this person already previously? Sorry, it should be able to. Okay, you can answer. Yes. No. Yes. Right, but students wouldn't necessarily, like, I didn't realize that's an option. When you're fighting, students don't realize you don't have to, but like, I didn't realize, I didn't realize you could just leave like a certain thing and that'd be a that's what I don't
I can take it.
You can just not campaign. No, you can just.
This is so. I think everyone's
Well, I don't know that because I don't know that.
They're gonna call you next.
Did it have any other?
There's a
Yeah. I love my kids. You know, that's what I was like, I'm not gonna say either way, right? Like, you can do a poll. Yeah, I'm really.
I honestly forgot we had time. So I don't know. I forgot.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just like,
I remember last year.
We need to be at least
well, yeah, so they can.
But I was on this. I was on the
I love it. I can say keep girls and boys. I can say it like
there's more than 2 happens.
well, I
live in
just walking in that office.
It's the rule committee that votes on this.
Or anything. Excited?
Alright, so I'm gonna make
You're not gonna have any life. Next semester.
So, what is the election? It doesn't go. Whenever the election is short, they shall be. So you can be an election. There's also the same. That's my
Last time we looked, they're all graduating.
It's really just my players.
I mean, it is, but like, I'd go for
Just know that now you're gonna get 100 units.
What happened?
Try to find funding.
That's a fashion statement, you know?
Oh, I thought you said it's a fashion statement. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm fascist.
so I'm just.
I mean, the senator is
That will be determined by the
I don't should have been like, I don't
funding is an issue.
Yeah.
Interview on it.
I'm not serious. You guys killed this on social media. I don't know if it is like that.
You want to change it to Monday night, Wednesday at 6:30?
I love actually, so it's like
I never want to There's not really organization.
And you're like, what?
I mean, I wasn't sure when I saw that
All these new rules are going to be coming up, and it's from stuff we were
Don't worry, I'll take this next week.
Are you doing any stories of like?
It goes really fast
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Where are you going?
They're all like,
It's either short or
Yeah, I'm with Mary's
I mean, your last
So are you like?
I mean, even if you have to do another.
You better stick around and wait for
I mean, you want to go to the club or like elections, the same person. Almost all the time.
I drive my way back to my place.
If there isn't.
See, at that point, what's it called, Sunfly? You know those commercials for break?
Yes, we're doing like a
Kind of off around that time. I said, okay. And then when they clicked, I was like,
I'm not. That's what I bought him. As like a.
and he used to name me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I just
No, I haven't.
I haven't seen it.
No, I mean,
And now you can
Yeah, I have a secret. I like the scent, and I smelled it, and I was like, you did this.
There you go.
I was like, so.
what phone?
You know, it's free.
Hey, it is. How long does it take? They're still counting your ballot. They're recounting what they're going to do.
I don't know what happened.
Oh, yeah, that's probably what it is.
That gets taken out of the.
Yeah, yeah, but probably a lot of the same that lowers the majority.
It's one of your biggest fans, that's for sure.
I don't think it was having this stuff. He's probably right. Well, I'm married. Pass or deny,
So
or
yes,
say.
yes, but no, and no.
And that may have confused the PA too.
I think this
Yeah, that's even yeah, but I don't know if any of them were you on the committee? I mean, for something that's small, they're not a piece of paper that's a long discussion. So can I ask a question?
Yeah, but like.
So that's it. There's definitely going to
Yeah, I voted.
18 abstains. Thanks, Leo. You influenced the cabinet.
I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, I kind of not. Yeah, I kind of wish they don't even know the number of people who are
It's not just
no, I meant like candidates. So there's no way to know someone is great or great. If they want to go, who's in charge of it? You're not transparent. I mean, I don't think they would. That's not good. There's no transparency. There needs to that's always a risk. That's a risk with any election. And were people screaming on both? That right there should be automatic now. This is a little bit vague. This right here, definitely, if you would be considered conflict of interest and automatically, based on Robert's rules of order, they would, as a right committee, would have to say that they have to in Robert's rules of order, No, they want to be a new committee.
I was actually one of those great
As I said, I don't know, the way that that's written, it sounds to me like you can't serve people. And that's probably how I feel like most people. Because it's such a big thing. I would say they almost did one last year with UCA. But I know exactly like where she dresses. She was Are you coming back to UCA? Okay, that's why I was confused. That's why I was confused.
How stressed I am about that process.
Okay.
Show me where you got it.
What? Nothing to eat? Where I got what? Okay, so.
Show me where.
Oh, that's from the public administration guidelines. College website when I applied to Matthews Public Administration. I can find it. It's probably Arkansas State University. We don't have that. I'm just going to. Well, the ones I applied
Is it there's like participation like
you can arrive late.
You would have to feel
Yeah, but that's different. Because a lot of the graduate classes meet in the national, and there's no way to get around it in the graduate conference. So without those people representing, they would not know representation for graduate students. There'd be no way they could get representation. So that's different. In years past, there have been students who had to be out of Senate for those semesters. However, other conferences have been doing second or second. But in years past, those senators are doing second. All right, it's different for graduates. There's no representation.
Are we still missing people? Is there anybody sitting next to you who's not sitting next to you? Is there any
He said he'll just walk back in.
Okay. Senate is back in session with 24 yeses and 13 noes. The motion fails. Is there any other new business? Vice President Pfaff?
I move that we reconsider the previous motion titled Election Rules Committee Appeal, vote to be taken by roll call.
Second.
Point of order, please cut the side conversations. It has been moved and seconded that we reconsider the previous motion titled Election Rules Committee Appeal, vote to be taken by roll call. Discussion on the motion, Vice President Pfaff.
All right. This is kind of sad, honestly, that we have to do this, because essentially what's just happened is Senate's voted to take away the voice of the students who voted for this. And the rationale being that it was a narrow margin of 8.1%, which is honestly not that narrow. I think there's been a lot of people who've won by much smaller margins. I think that this is probably the most frustrating thing that on like my 5 years on Senate I've ever had to experience. And I think that the people who voted, to not appeal this or not to ratify the previous motion, I hope that you voted out of confusion and not out of the fact that you thought that what you were doing was right, because it's wrong. That there's nothing right about this. You are legitimately taking the hand of the people who you're supposed to represent and putting it in your own hands, and then saying, I'm going to do what I want. The vote was fair and square. The counts were made. Whoever brought this appeal obviously thought that they had justified grounds. I think most logical and intellectual human beings would argue that they did not. And yet here we are having to now reconsider quite possibly the most absurd thing I've ever had to make a motion for. So again, this needs to be by roll call, because I want to see these people raise their hand that voted no, because they should be ashamed.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Information.
Yes, Senator Gilbert.
May not be relevant, but why didn't we just vote by roll call to begin with?
It's irrelevant. We didn't do it.
Yeah, Senator Miller.
I'd like to rise in support of this just because during our debate and discussion of this, no one spoke in opposition, and so therefore for the vote to reflect that there were in fact people who were in opposition to ratifying this, I would love to hear their point of view. I think that doing that based on a roll call will give us all a better platform for understanding where they're coming from.
Senator Askew.
I rise in support of reconsideration. I think given what we know about the election rules process, how votes are counted, regardless of who you voted for in this election, I don't think anyone with a straight face can deny that Senator Barnes won fair and square. This has never happened before, and I don't want people here to think that we would never appeal an election just because it hasn't happened before, but like Vice President Pfaff said, this margin was not nearly narrow enough. I mean, for me to ever consider doing something like this, it would have to be microscopic. 8.1% is not enough.
Senator Gilbert.
Point of information, and Senator Gomez brought this to my attention when we were on break. Pursuant to Section 3, letter C, no member of the Election Rules Committee shall be appointed to the Election Committee. Wouldn't, and I know that was...
That's for fall, is it not?
No, that is for, that is Section 3. Now I'm on page 5. So I wanted more clarification on that process to make sure that there wasn't any.
Yes, that's good. Yeah. Okay. So technically, the committee, the group meeting that we had, is dissolved when the election ends. So this was a new committee. Although it was kicked out of the same pool, it's a separate thing that did not meet at the same time as the election committee.
So it's not a conflict of interest or anything else like that?
No. Okay. We did not meet with election rules at the same time that the election committee was meeting. Because we did not have any appeals or campaign violations that they needed to meet on. So we just never convened.
Point of information.
Yes, Senator Tudor.
With section 4 on page 5, letter D, would this not be ruled null and void anyways because there's only 2 candidates?
It's just stating like because there's 2 candidates, majority wins.
Yes.
Okay, I will do this. So, section 6 appeals section of the Constitution in question that the appeal is based on is so vague that it doesn't state that somebody could not appeal based on something that's, okay, whatever. Let me start. The Constitution doesn't tell you that you can't appeal something that's in the Constitution, that you can't appeal to go against it. It is vague enough that the person writing this appeal, although they are asking us to go against our own Constitution, they are technically not in the wrong, because there's nothing in the appeal section that tells them they can't appeal to ask us to violate the Constitution. Does that make sense? What we are doing by talking about this, according to section 4D, is in violation of our Constitution, because it's asking us to do something after an election where there are only 2 candidates. Is it a discussion point or a point?
Discussion point.
Okay, how about you?
Senator
All right, so I rise in opposition of the appeal only for the standpoint of the fact that, once again, it's against our own Constitution. So I believe that, you know, this should happen. Because it's not in our Constitution. We cannot do this. There's only 2 candidates. But since it doesn't apply to the person, I understand. I just don't believe morally for us it goes against our own Constitution.
Point of clarification.
Be recognized by the chair.
Oh, sorry.
Will you clarify that for us? We're confused.
Are you in opposition or support of the move to reconsider?
That's what we were discussing.
Okay, never mind that.
Okay, thank you. So you know what he said. Sarah Moore, Mason.
Okay, my question was, it seems like there's some sort of misunderstanding. I'm trying to understand, a vote for yes and a vote for no, what do they truly mean? Because the way
Yes.
the numbers are looking at it, trying to understand.
Thank you for asking. Vice President Baptiste.
All right, so right now, all we are doing is to vote to reconsider. So if you vote yes to this, then we're going to reconsider the new motion, and then we will place another vote on the main motion. Does that make sense?
Okay, and then
So don't even worry about the main motion right now, okay? Think of it similar to an amendment, right? You have to vote on the amendment before you can get back to the main motion. We're voting on reconsidering right now. So if you don't want to reconsider, then you oppose it. If you want to reconsider, then you vote in favor for it. Does that make sense?
So only worry about the current. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you good?
I got you.
You got it? Is everybody else
So
clear on
we're
that?
voting for that.
We're only talking about the motion to reconsider. That is all we're talking about.
Sarah Marbley.
Okay, I have a question. Just
Yes.
before like we go into voting and everything, because I'm not confusing anything. But so like based off the people that stood up in support of like reconsidering and everything, I wanted to know like why are we reconsidering when we just voted on it and it voted the way it did? Besides the basis of like a personal explanation of why, you know, like what technicalities are we voting on besides a personal explanation that people.
Vice President, are you gonna yield to that?
Yeah.
Or
So if we just voted
Vice
on
President
paper,
McAfee.
we
Yeah.
don't have the same results this time. So it's like why are we
We
voting?
would do a roll call vote. That's what the reconsideration.
No, I know, like,
Oh,
it-
okay.
like I know that meant it, you know what I'm saying, like, why? Because
Okay.
they voted their way first time, they voted the second time, so like, what would be the purpose of voting by roll call besides the personal explanation for some people?
Okay. Did you still want to yield to that? Sure.
Yeah, because the results were despicable.
Okay.
Plain and simple.
Okay.
Point of
That's-
order, are we only re-voting just because the exec board didn't like the result?
Yeah, that's what my thought. Well, not exactly.
I made that motion of my own accord.
Okay.
Yes, Senator Askew.
I would like to make a point of clarification. Regardless of the reason to make a motion to reconsider, it is constitutional to reconsider if you are on the prevailing side of the vote. Also, y'all may need to double check me on this. I'm fairly certain that in a parliamentary procedure, it is not permissible for senators to question the motives of other senators during Senate on what, why they're choosing what they choose. That is not permissible and it's not relevant.
Go over Zoom discussion. Senator Ryder, do you still want to speak? Do you have a question?
At this point, I'm
Okay.
What are we choosing?
Okay, so we are right now voting on whether or not we want to reconsider the vote. Point of order, please stop the side conversations. This is why we are confused. I need everyone to please listen. We are voting on, or we're going to vote on what Vice President Pfaff made a motion to do, and that is to reconsider the vote that was just made, but to do it by roll call vote.
Vote again.
That's it. So not the main motion or anything like that, it's just literally to vote again by roll call vote. Okay, Senator Greider, do you still have a?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I rise in opposition because I, as a candidate, am perfectly fine with the previous vote, and I don't feel like running another election campaign. So
you would rise in support.
So you would rise in
I rise in
support.
opposition of another vote because the vote's already taken place, right?
Yes.
Yes, Vice President McAfee.
Okay, so the way that I'm looking at it, because I might have a simpler mind than some others, is that if I vote yes to reconsider, that means that I am not okay with the vote that was already made. So by me voting yes, we should reconsider, that means that I don't agree with the decision of the last vote. So if I were to vote no for the reconsider, then I am fine with the previous vote and I would like to move on to a second election, theoretically speaking. So one more time, if I vote yes to reconsider, that means that I am in opposition of the previous decision. And that means that I would like for another roll call vote to be made. But if I vote no to the reconsideration, that means that I'm totally okay with what just happened with the vote, and I would like to move on with another election.
the way it was worded, it sounded like by saying yes means we would just vote again in roll call form, just so
Yes.
those who said no would be spotlighted, is what it seemed like in the eyes of what I'm gonna say this side of the room, because that's the general feel I was getting.
Do you want to yield to that?
The votes were anonymous, so we don't know
Yes.
how that went.
Okay.
Point of information.
But we're wanting to do the same vote, just out loud.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, Senator Ettinger Lucero, what is your point of information?
To clarify, so because it was the previous vote was a 24 yeses, correct, and 13 noes, that meant that neither side got 2/3, which is why the motion was made to reconsider, just because I think that might clear up some confusion. 24 yeses to accept the ratification of the election committee's appeal, 13 noes did not reach 2/3 on either side, which means that this body is essentially denying that ratification, which means we would have to hold another election. So Vice President Pfaff has made a motion to reconsider. So if you vote yes for reconsideration, you are voting yes. We want to re-vote on this for maybe those of you that may have voted no were confused, or those of you that voted yes were confused in the first discussion.
Is anyone still confused? You voting yes to this reconsideration is not you voting yes or no to uphold the decision of the Election Rules Committee. That is, if we get majority on reconsideration, then we will do another roll call vote. Does that clear up confusion now? I feel like that's where I was losing people. Yes. So right now, we are talking about whether or not we want to reconsider. If this passes, then we will do a roll call vote again of what we just did with the paper ballots, but in roll call form. If we vote no, then that's it. Does that make sense? Anyone confused? Confused? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Anyone? Yes, discussion is now open. Okay, Senator Barnes, do you still want to discuss? Okay, Senator Morrison.
Yes, I just want to rise in full support of the reconsideration. When we had discussion previously, no one presented any kind of concern that there was dispute in the original election. So I feel like people are hiding at this point behind a unanimous ballot because they don't like the results of the election. Anonymous, thank you, not unanimous, because they don't like the results of the election, not because there was a legitimate concern that the election results could have been wrong, misleading, or illegitimate.
Senator Gilbert, this is your second time to speak.
I rise in opposition to the reconsideration. I rise in this position, even though I disagree with the initial vote, because one, it is not fair to spotlight people if we did it anonymous, which is basically what I feel like we will be doing. And two, we are all capable adults and we all did vote that way, and I think we should uphold what we just voted to.
Senator Edgar Lucero, would you still like to speak? Senator Markley, would you still like to speak?
Yes. Well, for one, based on what you said, immediately or immediately as well. If y'all felt like I was like questioning his opinion, that wasn't what that was. So I apologize if like you thought I was technical. But my question, the answer I was looking for was more on what Senator Edgar Lucero explained about the 2/3 vote. I didn't understand that part. So if I knew we were reconsidering because of the 2/3 thing, I just wanted to clarify that. I wasn't questioning your motives behind writing the motion, but more of like what was the basis behind the numbers. Gotcha.
Senator Hall.
Oh, I was confused. I'm
okay. No, you're fine. Senator Persia, would you still like to speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So I would like to rise in support of reconsideration because I think a lot of the reason people may have said no is because they were confused originally. I don't necessarily think it was just complete dissatisfaction with the way. I think part of it was probably like, maybe people are confused. So, yes, please reconsider. Vote yes.
Senator Waitsman, do you still want to speak?
So I think it's a point of information.
Okay.
So we're just voting for
To reconsider.
2/3. Well, after reconsideration, if it passes, we're voting again for the 2/3 because we didn't
Yes.
get 2/3.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Any final discussion questions? Do you have a question?
No.
Do you have a discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, Senator Sierra.
Recently, like, pretty confusing because, the reason behind it was, see whoever, voted against or whatever, and then, like, it changed, they started to reconsider the 2/3, and then it's like, so complicated, so I don't know like, what's going on right now. I'm getting that question. Like, I'm kind of confused.
I would just give my viewpoint on it. Like the motion is to me black and white. Either we reconsider or we don't. Where from what I got different viewpoints from others, some people are voting to reconsider based on wanting to hear people's votes out loud. Others are wanting to reconsider so that we might be able to reach a 2/3 vote. So I feel like it's your own discretion on whether you vote to reconsider or not. The reasoning was not stated in the motion. So therefore, the reasoning given is on personal opinion of the senators. That's from my viewpoint.
Okay. Any other? Senator Watkins, do you have a discussion? Okay.
I personally rise in support of the election rules initial denial of the appeal, but however, I think that we did do an anonymous vote for a reason, just because I feel like it's those who voted no and those who voted yes, like you don't want to create dissent among Senate just because of your vote. And I think we did it unanimous in the first place for a reason. So I feel like by us reconsidering it and making it a voice vote, we're setting a precedent to sort of like bully those people into saying yes because they're not the majority, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So we're bullying them into voicing their opinions?
Well, I mean, the way the motion was presented it, you basically called their vote ridiculous, and I feel like we shouldn't do that to other senators just because of their vote. So in the way that would be bullying them to vote yes because you're spotlighting and you said their vote is ridiculous. It was. I stand by that.
Point of order.
Yes. Please. Okay. Senator Askew, this is your second time to speak.
So a bit of what I'm hearing here is that much of the reason that some people don't want to reconsider is, they don't, for those people who voted no, maybe they aren't comfortable voicing that opinion out loud, or maybe we don't want to create dissent within the Senate. Dissent is politics. That's commonplace, okay? You all got elected here to lead, all right? And you got elected to voice your mind and the mind of the students to the best of your ability. Me personally, I genuinely hope that some of you who voted no change your mind. But at the same time, I will encourage you not to let fear rule your vote. I mean, in leadership positions, sometimes you make unpopular decisions. So do what you think is right, which I will be firm in my stance that a vote no is not right, but do what you think is right. Don't be afraid of it. I don't think we should be afraid of dissent here.
Senator Kale, do you still want to speak?
Yes. That ties along greatly with what Senator Askey just said. We're a family, I believe, I hope. We're not going to hate on each other just because we voted differently. We are more mature than that. We are adults. We can handle our business. If you cannot give a reason as to why you voted a certain way, I think that directly violates why we are all here and what we stand for, and we are doing a great disservice to our constituents. And you need to uphold the pillar of transparency of SGA. Otherwise, I think you just need to reconsider why you're here.
Senator Ettinger, I'm sorry, Senator Burton was first. Senator Burton, would you like to speak? Senator Ettinger, Lucero, this is your second final time to speak.
I'm not sure if this requires a motion card to be filled out or not, but I would like to move the previous question.
Second. Okay, all those in favor? To move straight into voting. So close discussion and move straight into voting. Sorry. Okay. Okay, all those opposed? All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we will move to previous question, which means discussion is now closed and we will move straight into voting. It has been moved and seconded that we reconsider the previous motion titled Election Rules Committee Appeal, vote to be taken by roll call.
Abbott, Askew,
Yes.
Audress, Volley,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Burklow,
Yes.
Burton,
Yes.
Kale,
Yes.
Clark, DePersia,
Yes.
Ettinger Lucero,
Yes.
Gilbreth,
No.
Gomez,
Yes.
Leo, sorry, did you say yes? Sorry. Gomez, Greider,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Hopkins,
No.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kilgrove,
Yes.
Watkins,
Yes.
Lavera, Mason,
No, abstain, sorry.
Marbley,
Yes.
I vote yes. McGarity,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Osile,
Abstain.
Pfaff,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Riggins,
Yes.
Sander,
Yes.
Sebastian, Sierra, Slager,
Yes.
Stalk, Tarka,
Yes.
Teeter,
Yes.
Vic, Weitzman,
Yes.
Whitby,
Yes.
Willie.
Yes. With 32 yeses, 3 noes, and 2 abstentions, the motion passes. So now we will do a roll call vote. Oh, you're right. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to open discussion on the Election Rules Committee appeal decision. Yes, okay, sorry. It's been moved and seconded that with the Election Rules Committee, the UCA SGA denied the anonymous appeal of the election results for Executive Vice President submitted on 13 April 2018. Okay, this is just open discussion, so raise your hands. Senator Gilbreth.
First off, I'd like to say that last time I voted yes, but this time I will be voting no. I believe that we voted as a Senate to deny this, and based on the 2/3 majority, and I believe that based on that information, we should uphold it again. And I also, and I'm not sure if I.
He said that we voted as a Senate to deny this,
The previous one, yes.
but it was not in 2/3 vote in denial, is that correct?
Yes. Is that a misclarification?
It just didn't pass.
It did not pass. That's what I meant. And based on that and the fact that I feel like FAF does want to spotlight those people, I will be voting.
Point of order. You cannot call out a senator.
Sorry.
Yes. Sarah Burton.
Look, I'm going to stand in support of this motion. What's happening here for the past 30 minutes has been distasteful. I'm not proud of what's been happening. And I don't think that we can look each other in our faces and say that we're proud either. So on the grounds that Section 4, D, of Section 3 of Article 4 of the Constitution, which states, in all races in which there are only 2 candidates for the election, the general election shall be the final election except in the event of a tie. I have full faith and confidence in Tarka and the other members of the committee that reviewed the OrgSync votes in both OrgSync form and spreadsheet form thrice over. That 30 plus or 8.1% margin is valid. That's what our students voted for. And if for some reason you have a problem with it, I don't know why you would, because that's the voice of the students, then you're in the wrong. And I'm ashamed of that.
Sarah Gomez.
Maria Gomez. So I think it's just like point of information. We're revoting because of the 2/3 thing.
We're revoting because it was just voted to reconsider. It doesn't matter why. We're just reconsidering it now.
Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Does anyone have any questions before we resume discussion? Yes.
So now that we're back to the actual notice,
Yes.
A vote for yes is,
Okay.
and a vote for no is, can we read the form of
Thank
vote?
you. Okay, so in this, now what we're discussing in, a vote for yes means that you uphold the decision made by Election Rules Committee, which was to deny the appeal. If you vote no, it means you want to go against the Election Rules Committee and vote no.
Okay. Now,
And have an election.
Now that makes sense.
If you need to write it down.
Yeah, if you'll need to write it down, please write it down. Any confusion on that? No? Everyone understanding? There should be no confusion this time. Okay, we are resuming discussion. Senator Greider.
I rise in support because, like I said earlier, my opponent won fair and square by 8.1%, and the students did vote for that. For those who, in the anonymous, like, I appreciate your support if that's what you were going at. However, the students did speak their mind and they did come out and vote. So, us as senators, we need to uphold that because we represent them. Again, I appreciate if you were just trying to stay on my side, that's great. But the division that's been in this room for the past 30 minutes is not UCA SGA. We are for the betterment of the campus as a whole, not our own personal agendas. That's why I rise in support.
Sarah Lockings, do you still want? No, that's okay. That's perfectly valid. Sarah Lockings, would you still like to speak? Okay.
I also would like to rise in support of this amendment simply on the constitutional grounds, as Senator Burton stated, but also that I feel like we shouldn't set a precedent that if somebody wins fair and square, that the opponent who lost can repeal it and then have another election and take that away from the person who won. And simply because we did have low voter turnout and the margin of error just isn't small enough for us to be reconsidering this. Because then there are other elections that currently just took place that we should also reconsider just to be fair.
It's his ability to do so. I'm the only one that can't. Okay. Sarah, ask you.
All right. I perfectly agree with Senator Walking's statement that it would set a dangerous precedent. Also, I think it's more important that Senator Barnes be focused on a peaceful and smooth transition right now, rather than trying to win another election. We are kind of crunched for time. It's the end of the semester. It's busy time for both her and Vice President Riggins. I think that's the most important thing here. And also, Senator Grider has said more than once now that he is not for a special election. So this is really a non-starter for me.
Senator Barnes, would you still like to speak?
I was in support of the appeal from the Election Rules Committee, but I don't want to say any sort of personal conviction. I want to offer one anecdote. Last semester, actually not last semester, last spring, 2 people ran for sophomore class president. They won. There was a margin. One person won by 9 votes, and no one said a word. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Ramirez, would you still like to speak?
So I read in support of the appeal because there is a case being presented, but there is not enough warrant or evidence to support the impact that it's trying to make. So vote yes, because like the appeal needs to be denied.
Okay. Senator Miller, this is your second time speaking.
Great. I just wanted to clarify. It says it's within an 8.1% margin, not a margin of error. I know we're kind of throwing that term around. I don't want anybody to think this is a margin of error. It was an 8.1% margin, and we're fine. Other people are thinking it. An 8.1% margin in the candidate's votes. So I want everybody to be clear on that. There was no error, like Advisor Tark said. The votes were counted 3 times. This is very clear. It's an 8.1% margin in difference of votes. I'd also like to say that I think it speaks volumes that Senator Grider has taken a stance on this, and especially one in support of passing along with the election rules committee.
Senator Ettinger Lucero.
I'm also going to rise in support of upholding the ratification of the Appeals Committee's decision. And it might be on personal grounds, but Senator Burton, Senator McGarity, Senator Barnes, and myself walked out of this chamber last Thursday afternoon with the assumption that the 4 of us will be representing the executive positions for the Student Government Association next year. And to disapprove of this, to vote against ratification of the decision by this appeals committee, and to put another election in place where Senator Barnes and Senator Grider once again are going against each other for this position, and to have a potential shake-up for the position of executive vice president puts, I don't know if Senator McGarity and Senator Burton also feel this way, but for me as the incoming president, this puts me in a very awkward position. And I feel that the other 2 may also feel that way. It is just, we walked out of this room with the mindset that the 4 of us would be working together as an executive board next year. And for a personal opinion, I feel that this entire conversation has been completely irrelevant. We have violated our Constitution on multiple grounds. And for those of you that voted no, that is your right to vote no. But I want you to remember that you are a senator in this room. You represent a constituency group. And by voting no, you were taking the voice away of the 380 plus students that voted in this election. Was that shameful voter turnout? Absolutely. But those are the students that voted. Those are the students that wanted their voice to be heard, and their voice has been heard. So that to vote to disapprove of this ratification and to want to hold a special election is shameful. And for those of you that vote no on this, I'm sorry, but I can't support it.
Is there any other discussion? It has been moved and seconded that in accordance with the Election Rules Committee, the UCA SGA deny the anonymous appeal of the election results for Executive Vice President submitted on 13 April 2018 roll call vote.
Abbott, Askew,
Yes.
Audrez, Foley,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Burklow, Burton,
Yes.
Kale,
Yes.
Clark, DePersia,
Yes.
Ettinger Lucero,
Yes.
Gilbert,
No.
Gomez,
Yes.
Gomez, Grider,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Hopkins,
No.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kilgrove,
Yes.
Walkings,
Yes.
Lavera,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Marbling, I vote yes. McGarity,
Yes.
Miller, yes. Morrison,
Yes.
Osile,
Yes.
Bath,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Riggins,
Yes.
Sander,
Yes.
Sebastian, Sierra,
Yes.
Slager, Stock, Tarka,
Yes.
Teeter,
Yes.
Vic, Weitzman,
Yes.
Whitby,
Yes.
Willie.
Yes. With 33 yeses, 2 noes, and 0 abstentions, the motion passes. Is there any other new business? Vice President Riggins.
I move that UCA SGA amend bylaw J, pages 31 through 39 of the Constitution to remove the SGA graduate bylaw.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the UCA SGA amend bylaw J, pages 31 through 39 of the Constitution to remove the SGA graduate bylaw. Quick question, who seconded that? Discussion on the motion, Vice President Riggins.
Okay, I want you to know when I start this is not an easy motion for me to make. SGA graduate, while we're sad, was not successful in getting their feet off the ground this year. So in the interest of our organization being their umbrella organization, we are disbanding it. We have done a lot of work. Our exec board, our advisors especially, have done a lot to help SGA graduate grow, and we've done a lot to try to nurture it. But unfortunately, the timing was off. It just didn't quite work here. So my motion here is to remove the bylaw from our bylaws. To be replaced with, at the end, it will say bylaw J, SGA graduate, and then it will say this was removed by a vote of Senate in 2018. So that future SGAs will know that this happened and that it was removed. And I know we will leave, I'm sure President Walu will, in transition documents, what our reasoning was for this. So if a future SGA or a future group of graduate students comes together and they decide they want to make SGA graduate happen, they can see why it didn't work in the first place.
Any other discussion on the motion? Yes, Senator Gilbreth.
Point of information,
Yes.
are you gonna make the friendly amendment to change the?
That's a different motion.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Motion to adopt by unanimous consent.
Okay. Are there any objections? That's more of a rhythm. Okay. Is there any other new business? Vice President Riggins.
I move that the UCA SGA amend Constitution Article 2, Section 3B, page 2 of the Constitution to remove references to SGA graduate.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the UCA SGA amend Constitution Article 2, Section 3B, page 2 of the Constitution to remove references to SGA graduate. Discussion on the motion, Vice President Reed.
Okay, so I looked at the Constitution, and this is the only place that mentions having graduate senate. It stated previously that we should get 3 graduate liaisons to serve as graduate representatives from SGA graduate. And since we just voted to remove, sorry, it's a quick word. Remove SGA graduate, there isn't a place for those liaisons to come from, so changing it back. And then I have an amendment to talk about the post-bac thing, so I'm coming back in a minute.
Any other discussion? Vice President Reagan.
I move that we amend the previous notice for Article 2, Section 3B on page 2 to read 3, in parentheses the number 3, graduate senators. The graduate senator with the highest vote count will act as the president and be known as the primary graduate senator. The primary graduate senator will be responsible for the same duties as the other class presidents. In the case of a tie for primaries, the executive president, with majority approval of the senators present at the next scheduled meeting, will choose the primary graduate senator.
It has been moved and seconded that we amend the previous notice for Article 2, Section 3B on page 2 to read 3, in parentheses the number 3, graduate senators. The graduate senator with the highest vote count will act as the president and be known as the primary graduate senator. The primary graduate senator will be responsible for the same duties as assigned the other class presidents. In the case of a tie for primary, the executive president, with majority approval of the senators present at the next scheduled meeting, will choose the primary graduate senator. Discussion on the motion, Vice President Reagan.
Okay, so I was mistaken and I put in language about a post-bac student being able to occupy one of these positions, but my bad, I didn't read further down in the Constitution where we actually let post-bacs serve with seniors. So we didn't need to let post-bacs do both. They get one or the other. They're graduates or they're seniors. In our Constitution currently, it says seniors. So I took all that out.
Yes, Senator.
I rise in support of this.
Any other discussion? Yes, Senator Waitsman.
Motion to adopt by unanimous consent.
Okay, are there any objections? All right, Vice President Riggins.
Okay. I move that the UCA SGA amend bylaw B, Article 2, Section 1D, page 14 of the Constitution to change the structure of the Student Life Committee.
Second.
Wait, we didn't do that one yet.
We didn't do the main motion. We
Oh,
only
Move to adopt by unanimous consent.
I'm sorry.
Okay, now that was, yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, she got real excited.
Original.
Okay, now we're back to the original motion.
Move to adopt by unanimous consent.
Second.
Are there any objections? Vice President Reagan.
Okay. I move that the UCA SGA amend bylaw B, Article 2, Section 1D, page 14 of the Constitution to change the structure of the Student Life Committee.
Second.
Okay.
No, because you did it beforehand. Maggie gets it. Congrats, Maggie.
Thank you.
It has been moved and seconded that hold on. I got too excited about that. Okay. It's been moved and seconded that the UCA SGA amend bylaw B, Article 2, Section 1D, page 14 of the Constitution to change the structure of the Student Life Committee. Discussion on the motion, Vice President Reagan.
So, the first big change of this is changing the name to Student Life Affairs Committee. And the reason of this is to eliminate confusion with the University Student Life Committee, because that has been a confusion point in our Senate before for years. And I thought, we could fix it. So now it has a cute little acronym. We're going to call it SLAC. Cute, like SFAC or SAFA. SLAC. Fun. So that is the first really big change. The next one is the reviewing of resolutions. So I just added in subsection 3 that what it says in Special Rule 3 in the back of your Constitution, that the Executive Vice President should email senators 48 hours in advance with the resolution that has been passed by the Student Life Committee, so that full Senate has time to review a resolution before it is presented to them on Monday night. That is not a new thing, it's just it hasn't been in the Constitution, so I moved it there so we don't forget about it. And then the fourth one talks about committees that could come out of this. It just gives the committee the ability to create like ad hocs. It doesn't mean they have to, it gives them the ability to. And I also added, for clarification, there should be a graduate senator and an academic college representative. We've done this in practice, but I just wanted to make sure that they are always included because they're an important part of the student life affairs committee too.
Any other discussion, Senator Gilbert?
I move that we vote by unanimous consent. Second.
Any objections? Y'all cannot use it next year all the time. Be careful, please. Use it appropriately. Any other new business? Are we done with new business? Okay. We will go into announcements. We're not done yet. Announcements. Senator Dr. Tarka.
Two things. Student evaluations are open now. I'm going to encourage you to do it now while your stress level is only at a 7 out of 10. You're likely to give much more reasonable feedback now than after you've taken 4 exams in 2 days and you haven't slept since, you know, it's 4 days. Then getting online and you're mad about because the roommate recognition is synced. And then just start, everybody's terrible. Do it now while you have time and while you're probably in a more reasonable frame of mind as a person. The second thing is if you have in your title the word president or vice president, or if you will have the word president or vice president in your title, check your email.
Check your
All right.
Senator Askey.
All right.
What'd you get for not letting me do a second?
I just wanted to leave y'all some encouraging parting words tonight. I know that one of our previous discussions in Senate tonight got very passionate, but like we were referring to earlier, SGA is a family of sorts, and you know, we disagree sometimes, and regardless of what side you were on tonight, if you have any, you know, harsh feelings, leave them in this room tonight, let them die, because that's how we're going to work better together, SGA as a team. This is not the first time we've discussed controversial things, and it will most likely not be the last. So, you know, let there not be any harsh feelings tonight. Secondly, it is 7:15, which means that Bear Patrol is officially in operation, so get a ride back to your dorm.
Residence Hall.
Residence Hall.
Okay.
2 hours will be on
Senator, who had their hand up? Senator Edgar Lucero, I guess.
I just want to say congratulations to Vice President McAfee and Senator Miller for making President's Leadership Fellows, and if anyone else in this room made it,
yeah, Jacob Mitchell.
He's not in this room, that's why I said
Well,
anyone else in
he's
this room.
here.
So, Jacob, if you're listening to the live stream,
He's part of the
congratulations.
SGA family. Senator Gilbert.
So, and Hershela swears this conversation never, President Lalu swears this conversation never happened. But yeah, I'm about to embarrass her a little bit here. So when I was a sophomore and she was a freshman, I was having financial difficulty at UCA, considering dropping out. And she encouraged me to look into foundation scholarships and encouraged me to stick through it. And it's because of her and her words of wisdom that I am here today. So I'd like to personally thank her in front of all the senators.
We're doing the sappy stuff at the last one. I'm not gonna Senator Luckings.
Okay, well, I just want to say, because I don't know if I'll be able to say this to everybody at the banquet, but I just want to say thank you, SGA, for making my freshman year awesome, and exec, I'm really sad to see all of you go.
We're doing it at the next meeting.
I'll have a longer one next meeting.
Sarah Barnes.
Next meeting.
Anyone else, not something heavy. Sarah McGarity.
Okay, so my friend is the editor of the yearbook, and she asked me to tell you guys all to go get yearbooks. They're going to be at the amphitheater from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Wednesday and Friday, and then behind Starbucks from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Thursday and Tuesday.
Are there any other announcements before I have two? Okay, so freshmen, regardless of what your title says, if this is your first, if you just graduated high school last year, please say after. Exec committee, we're still having exec committee Thursday. Love y'all. There will be a nice surprise. Okay, that's it. Any other announcements? Nope. Meeting is adjourned. If you want to take your name tag, feel free to take it, unless it's a slide-in. If it's a slide-in, don't take the entire thing. Just take your name tag. Yeah, you can have it.
No, what I mean is, you said you asked me, and it's like I couldn't do it because it was like I only had 2 hours.
Yes, it is, Deborah. Don't click it. No, right here.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so it ended up working out. Well, that's awesome. Congratulations.
I think it's yours. Because I was going to longer in there.
It's not mine. Mine is.
Never mind.
It's probably right now.
This one's